Man, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of EOS. It's 1090 Jake, man. I'm rocking with y'all, that y'all rocking with me. And for this video, I don't know if y'all can see my pupils look normal today because I'm recording in the daylight. Excuse this little scruff. You know I'm normally babyface Jake, but I had a busy weekend, baby girl's birthday. I appreciate everybody that wished her a happy birthday in the community post. Y'all are the best. She do be running around saying, "What's up, everybody?" every time I get ready to record. But anyways, this video, on a serious note, this video is going to be about the effect Trayvon Martin's death had on the Florida Department of Corrections and the death that followed. And to be honest, it's one of the nastiest, most brutal cases that I've heard. And every now and then, every couple of videos, I come across somebody that makes me a firm believer in the death penalty. And the man that I'm going to be speaking on in this video literally checks off every single qualification. Trayvon Martin. I'm sure everyone's heard the story of the 17-year-old African-American teen that was fatally shot in the chest by neighborhood watch captain George Zimmerman. Florida's controversial stand your ground law, giving a person the right to use deadly force if in fear for their life. Trayvon's death was one of many that have continued to divide this country. In the early 50s, colored TVs were created, becoming mainstream in the early to mid 1960s, but this country remained very black and white, or black versus white. The new Black Panther Party offering a $10,000 bounty for the capture of Zimmerman. Skittles and an Arizona iced tea becoming symbols of innocence, as they were all that was carried by Trayvon the night of his death. Zimmerman later auctioning the $350 9mm Kel-Tec PF9 handgun that he claims is a piece of American history, allegedly selling it for $250,000. From racial slurs to bragging about his newfound fame, even using it to try and pick up women. I love your tattoos. My name's George Zimmerman. You know, the guy who killed Trayvon Martin. Another man approached Zimmerman in the bar that day, asking if he was bragging about it before punching him in the face. Many across the nation expressed hatred for the man. At the same time, many voiced their support. It was yet again black versus white, right versus wrong. And the craziest part was his father was white, his mother Peruvian. But that didn't matter in the eyes of many. To some, he wasn't black, so they showed support. To others, he wasn't black, and he embodied a racist, privileged oppressor. The news covered the outrage nationwide, but I'm here to tell a different story, coming from the dungeons of the Florida Department of Corrections. Ricky Martin's life was fucked from the beginning. He was only 2 when both of his parents were murdered in Brownsville, Ohio. Moving to Naples, Florida to live with his grandmother, he was one of many that felt he had no family, living with a learning disability and often being the victim of bullying. He turned to the streets for a new sense of belonging and to gangs for a sense of protection. In 2007, Martin was on his way to prison, convicted of an armed burglary in which he stole guns from a home he was working at as an electrician. Selling them for $600 worth of crack, for the next 6 years, he'd do his best to survive the Florida Department of Corrections. Affiliating himself with a gang, things took a turn for the worst when he was told to stab a blood gang member in the chow hall, and he refused. He'd cut himself repeatedly to rack up disciplinary reports, keeping himself in confinement where he felt he was safer. In 2011, he filed a grievance asking for protection because his life was being threatened. He'd been labeled a snitch by the staff at the North Florida Reception Center in Lake Butler. He reported how staff were running an inmate fight club in the chow hall. The officers he'd named in the grievance threatening him, calling him a snitch and telling him they told inmates about what he did, implying now both inmates and staff were after him. He claimed an officer had planted a knife in his cell, resulting in confinement time where the staff would be able to poison his food or starve him altogether. His first and second requests for protection were denied. Eventually, Ricky Martin was sent to the dungeons at the Santa Rosa Correctional Institution. Considered a violent offender for his armed burglary charge they sent him to prison for, he racked up an additional 32 disciplinary reports while in prison, mainly for cutting himself, tattooing, or disorderly conduct. His only violent DIs would be a fight, outspoken threats, and the knife that was allegedly planted in his cell. With 12 months left on his sentence, he was dead within 36 hours of arriving at Santa Rosa. Shawn Rogers was serving a life sentence for a 2002 conviction of robbery with a firearm and a concurrent 15-year sentence for aggravated battery with the firearm from the same incident. Rogers was originally from New York City, raised in a housing project with a psychiatrically unstable drug addict mother. When he was 2 years old, his mother surrendered him to foster care where he lived in multiple foster homes and group homes, on and off with his grandmother and sometimes placed back in with his own mother. By 14, he was in an inpatient psychiatric care facility where he was diagnosed with ADHD, depression, anxiety, and antisocial personality disorder. Leaving the facility, he found himself time and time again within New York's juvenile justice system. And before the age of 20, Rogers had several bids of incarceration in the New York Department of Corrections. An expert testified his impulse control problems being the direct result of his upbringing and head injuries suffered as a child. From 17 to 21, he served time in a New York State prison for an attempted robbery, and within a year of his release, he'd knock a cab driver's teeth out with a gun, receiving his life sentence at just 22 years old. It's a sad story, huh? If you feel bad at this point, you won't in a few minutes. The same year of his conviction, he'd tie up a cellmate and relentlessly beat him. In 2005, he hogtied and beat another cellmate unconscious for disrespecting him. Arms and legs tied behind as Rogers struck him with a food tray, spattering the confinement cell walls with blood. In 2009, Rogers stabbed another inmate in the head multiple times with a prison-made ice pick, hospitalizing the inmate. He had a long history of inmate assaults, breaking prison sprinklers, even exposing himself to inmates and staff. A month after the stabbing, he'd knee another inmate in the face inside of a confinement cell. On March 14, 2012, Rogers was transferred to Santa Rosa, 10 years into his life sentence with 12 inmate assaults on his record. At the time, there was no system in place to identify inmates as predator or non-predator. The result was a 6'4", 260-pound Shawn Rogers being celled with a 5'10", 140-pound Ricky Martin, with a release date 12 months away. March 30th, 2012. Less than a month after the death of Trayvon Martin, correction staff did their routine security checks at 7 p.m., noticing nothing out of the ordinary. 7:10 p.m., officers noted inmates being louder than normal inside of the wing, walking around to determine who was making the noise and why. Shawn Rogers was standing at the cell door and told the officer, "Hey man, he's cutting himself. Y'all need to get in here and stop him." The officer could see Ricky Martin laying on the ground under a prayer rug, on his back with his arms behind his back. The officer told Martin to show his hands and stop harming himself, but he didn't respond. Blood could be seen on the cell floors and walls. In an attempt to stop Martin from harming himself, even though he was unresponsive, the officer opened the flap and deployed pepper spray. Martin responded by rolling onto his side. Now the officer could see Martin's hands were tied behind his back with pieces of white torn cloth from the bed sheets. Shawn Rogers, who appeared uninjured, was cooperative and removed from the cell and secured in the shower area, where another inmate saw him drop something down the shower drain. Entering the cell, officers removed the rug covering Martin. A string tied around his neck, hands tied behind his back, feet tied together, pants pulled down, and a pair of boxers over his head. Bloody handprints on the wall near his body. Removing the boxes from his head, they now saw the brutal facial injuries. Martin's breathing becoming increasingly labored. He was transferred to the prison's on-site emergency room. On arrival, Martin started seizing. The nurse determining he appeared to have severe brain damage, gurgling blood in his mouth. His body was turned on his side to suction the blood out. As he was turned, matter, or bodily fluids, leaked out of his ear. The nurse, noticing a piece of his ear was missing. The damage was more than what she could help with, transferring Martin to a local hospital for further treatment. He was admitted with extensive head injuries, diagnosed with an intracranial hemorrhage, and given a poor prognosis. Placed on a ventilator due to respiratory failure, he had no neurological response. Over the next few days, his respiratory condition would deteriorate, developing pneumonia. 9 days after the attack, Ricky Martin was declared brain dead and taken off life support on April 8th, 2012. Shawn Rogers was charged with first-degree murder, requesting a speedy trial and to represent himself in court. Moved into Ricky's cell, Shawn claimed it was filthy. He started cleaning the cell, talking shit to Martin, calling him a dirty-ass cracker and filthy motherfucker. These are the actual terms used in court by Shawn Rogers. Rogers cussed him out aggressively before getting on the top bunk to listen to his radio. Looking down, he saw Martin started cutting himself. He thought he was doing it to get out of the cell, get transferred over to the medical wing. He jumped down and said, "What the fuck is wrong with you, man? You acting like a little bitch." Telling Martin if he doesn't stop cutting, he's gonna put his foot up his ass. Martin kept saying, "I gotta get up out of here." At that time, Rogers put a shirt over the cell window. Nobody could see in. They could only hear what was happening. 3 or 4 punches, and Martin was on the concrete floor, his face being kicked and stomped 6 or 7 times. Screams coming from the cell, desperately trying to get up as he left bloody handprints on the walls of the cell. Rogers described the attack in court. "I kicked him in the face and said, 'This is for Trayvon Martin, motherfucker.' I kicked him in the face again and said, 'This is for Trayvon Martin, motherfucker.' I kicked him a 3rd time and said, 'This is for Trayvon Martin, you pussy ass fuck boy.' I kicked him in the face a 4th time and said, 'This is for Martin Luther King.' I kicked him in the face a 5th time and said, 'This is for Emmett Till and all the other black people you crackers done killed.'" Rogers said Martin never tried to throw a punch. He was just sitting there helpless when he started attacking. When Rogers realized Martin wouldn't stop trying to get up, he ripped the bed sheet and tied him up. He then put cloth in his mouth and tied it around his head so he couldn't scream. When asked if Martin was still moving when Rogers was tearing the sheet, he said, "Yeah. Like, I don't know, I guess kinda like when you step on a roach, they still be alive, but they still be moving." Rogers described the end of the attack. By then, he was beat up bad and breathing hard, and I asked all the brothers on the wing, "Who wants me to kill this pussy ass cracker?" A lot of them said, "Yeah," but my little homie Y.O., Steve Young, said, "Big brother, don't kill that cracker, just put him on the door," which was slang for getting the inmate removed out of your cell. Rogers said, "Bro, God going to bless you, Y.O., because I was going to kill this fuckboy on the strength. Blue Flame Midnight Crip Gang." Rogers described how Martin's gang brothers started cussing at him from behind the cell doors, threatening him about what they were going to do. Inmates testified under oath that another inmate provided Rogers with a peanut butter squeeze to be used as lubricant. Rogers admitted to sticking a finger in Martin's ass, yelling, "This cracker's pussy good." When Martin screamed in pain, Rogers said, "Shut up, cracker, shut up." But Rogers testified he never raped Martin. He pretended he did and made the slapping sounds to piss off Martin's gang brothers, who could do nothing but listen. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you're asking yourself if I beat Mr. Martin up about the murder of Trayvon Martin, you're goddamn right I did. But there was also other factors. When I first met Mr. Martin and looked him in his eyes, I knew all for real what he was all about. He was a straight bitch, a snitch, and an undercover racist. That's the vibe he gave off. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and been in the streets my whole life, so my instincts are good when it comes to reading people. And the more I got to learn about Mr. Martin, my suspicions have been confirmed. Mr. Martin is everything I despised in life. A snitch, a coward, and a straight fuckboy. I got no love for the dude or no sympathy. I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel no remorse. I'm not losing any sleep over the death of Ricky Martin, and neither is anybody else. Convicts know how to do time. Inmates don't. Ricky Martin was an inmate, A crybaby, a cutter, not even man enough to stand up in his pants for what he claimed he believed in. He would rather tell the police if he got a problem and check in with protective custody. I would never have no sympathy for no buster like that. And I believe in the Midnight Crip gang to the fullest. I've been A1 since day one. From Spofford Juvenile Detention Center in New York to Rikers Island to Florida State Prison. I'm a Midnight Crip and I will be less of a man to get in front of the jury, in front of y'all in this situation and pretend that it's anything different, while there's brothers in the streets dying and catching life sentences every day about this blue flag. When my mom was smoking crack and my pops was nowhere to be found, it was the Crip gang that took me in. They've been my family when I had no family. When I was doing time and didn't have nothing, Crip made sure I had a care package. Some people believe in religion and that's great, but I believe in my gang and I'm willing to die about that, and I'm willing to live about that, and I'm down for whatever. That's what you call true blue. I said all this because I firmly believe that if you stand for something, you stand firm in your convictions regardless of the consequences. The bottom line is I'm responsible for the death of Ricky Martin. I accept the responsibility, but I also want to note the negligence, stupidity, and incompetence of the Florida Department of Corrections. I'm not going to change the way I do my time. And you can ask anybody that knows me. I've been the same way my whole life. I don't change up. I don't flip-flop. You will always know where I stand and what I'm about because I've been thoroughly consistent all these years. Loyalty is all I know. Society is not made for people like me. Society is full of fake people, fake friendships, fake relationships, fake. But with me, what you see is what you get. There's nothing fake or phony about me. I'm OG Jigga Man, Midnight Crip Gang, 103 Eastside Trays Up. And that's why I can get on this witness stand and look at you, ladies and gentlemen, in the face of the jury and tell you that I could care less about Ricky Martin and I meant everything I said. The jury found Rogers guilty of first-degree premeditated murder and kidnapping to terrorize or inflict bodily harm. A total of 28 inmate witnesses testified how the guards were not only alerted by inmate Ricky Martin, who begged to be taken out of the cell, but other inmates made the officers aware, to which the officer paid no attention, saying let the next shift handle it. Not only that, but the family of Ricky Martin were pressured into removing him off life support. It seemed as if Santa Rosa officials didn't want him to wake up. The plug was being pulled on him. He died being transferred on his way back to the prison, brain dead. All of this without the permission of the family, who believe prison staff had more to do with his death than what is being portrayed. 4 inmates testified against 2 officers, saying they were made aware of what was happening, how Martin was being raped and beaten. One inmate testifying Rogers asked Martin after he was placed in the cell if he was going to fight or fuck. And all of the inmate witnesses said Rogers was known to sexually prey on white inmates. Through letters to family, Rogers expressed how he felt about Trayvon's murder and how he planned to get revenge on a white inmate. These letters helped secure a conviction for premeditated murder. Who wants to see me kill this cracker? Multiple inmates, both black and white, testified to hearing him say it. Recorded video showing the officers stop outside Rogers' cell as Roger was heard saying, "This dude is fucked up, bleeding." The officer shrugged it off. The second officer did the same. When they left, Rogers climbed to the top bunk and jumped on Martin's head 10 to 11 times as the inmates started banging on the doors to get the officers' attention. Batteries were found all around the cell. They'd been put in a sock and used to attack Martin before the sock split. The makeshift knife or razor used to attack Martin was never recovered, said to have been dropped in the shower drain when Rogers was removed from the cell. Lacerations left all over Martin's body, puddles of blood throughout the cell. Martin's face completely disfigured and his skull crushed. Sean Rogers currently sits on death row at Union CI for the murder of Ricky Martin. Now that was a wild one, I'm not gonna lie. Researching the video, going through the court paperwork, the appeals, the affidavits, it's disgusting what this guy did. It's even crazier to see him stand in court with no sympathy, no remorse, shouting out Midnight Crip, this, that, and the third, but he's obviously gay, which goes against Crip. I don't even understand that part. You have a lot of mentally unstable people inside of prison. You have a lot of mentally unstable staff members that put anyone inside of a cell, and it's not just because they're stupid. They know what they're doing. And it sounded like this man was targeted by the staff. It sounded like things were set up, things might have gone too far, and then they were covered up. But this is the reality of the Florida Department of Corrections. It's 1090 Jake. I'm rocking with Charlie, y'all rocking with me. Till next time.